guys, welcome back to another video. My name is Rini and I make videos on DIY home decor on a budget. Today I'm going to share with you two very simple and trendy DIYs which I think you're going to like. The first one is a jute rug. So I always wanted a jute rug for my home. I looked online, they were quite on the expensive side, so I thought I could totally DIY this. And the second project is a modern planter. Before we get started, please subscribe and click the bell icon if you would like to get notified every single time I upload a new video on my channel. So without further ado, let's jump right into the DIYs. I used this piece of felt fabric as the base of the rug. You can use an old bedsheet or anything you have on hand will work as well. I cut it out to 28 inches long and 20 inches wide. First I folded it in half and then I folded it one more time. I tried to match all the four corners of the fabric and I cut them with my pair of scissors to make the corners rounded. Then I took the spool of jute rope that I grabbed from a dollar store and I started gluing it right on the border of the felt. I continued gluing the rope on the border. I applied hot glue very close to the adjacent rope and pressed both the strands together to cover any gaps. While working with the corners, I pushed the rope outwards and held it for a couple of seconds to avoid any gap. This process is quite repetitive. From here, I continued gluing the rope on the fabric and I worked my way starting from the edges towards the center. This way, I continued gluing the rope and it took me 3 to 4 hours to cover the entire surface. If you go for a thicker rope, it will take much less time. Also, this required quite a lot of hot glue sticks, so make sure guys you have them handy. You can use fabric glue if you want to avoid the hot glue strings, but it was easier for me to work with a glue gun. I ran out of the spool which I was using, so I took this jute rope which turned out to be a bit lighter colored than the previous one, and I continued wrapping it again towards the center. I glued the last section and cut the excess rope and secured it with a dab of hot glue. I also removed the unwanted hot glue strings from the rug. I took the same jute rope and mapped out the perimeter of the rug. I planned on braiding it, so you want to make sure you keep the rope strand longer than the actual perimeter because the length is going to reduce if you braid the rope. Using the first strand as a guide, I cut out 2 more strands. Then I taped them down and I started braiding the strands into a classic 3-strand braid. The strands were quite long, so you want to untangle them while you work all the way down. This is a very simple and basic braiding technique. You will have a right strand, middle strand and a left strand. I held the left strand in my left hand and crossed it over the middle strand and then held the right section in my right hand and crossed it over the middle. After I completed braiding, I went ahead and trimmed the end. Then I started hot gluing the rope following the perimeter of the rug. You want to press it down for a few seconds so it stays put. This will form a very pretty border and will also give it an aesthetic look. This way I continued hot gluing the braid on the rug. Once I reached the end, I cut off the excess and glued it down. I also added a bit of hot glue on the joint to secure it further. Then I took another piece of rope and mapped out the length of this arrow mark formed on the rug. I didn't like the gaps very much, so I thought of covering those with another braid. Also, I kept quite a few inches of extra rope and you will be seeing why I did that in a bit. so I cut down 2 more strands of the same length. I taped the pieces down and started braiding them. Also this time I went for the basic 3-strand braid. I think the best way to braid long strands is to tape them on the edge of a table. This makes the entire process much easier. Once I was done, I trimmed the ends and started to glue the braid following the arrow mark. After applying the glue, I pressed the braid against the surface and I held it for a few seconds until the glue cooled down a bit. Once I reached the corner, I cut it to size and glued it down. I took that extra piece of braid and repeated the same pattern, but this time the arrow was smaller than the first one. I left about 3 inches of space on both the sides and started to attach the piece on the rug following the top arrow as a guide. Then I took another braid of the same length and repeated the exact process for the other side. I was so thrilled how this piece turned out. I have seen similar rugs online and they were quite expensive. I'm so happy I was able to make this piece for under $10. For making our planter, I took this glass vase and a small fish bowl. I took my E6000 and applied it generously around the edges of the vase. Then I took the fish bowl and attached it to the vase. The base of the bowl was almost equal to the rim of the vase, so it fitted quite seamlessly. Next, I grabbed some of these faux pearl beads. Those were 1 centimeter in diameter. You can take bigger beads if you want. To attach them to the bowl, I used a dab of E6000 combined with hot glue. I attached the beads around the edges of the bowl and I left about 2 inches of space between each bead. I just eyeballed and glued on the beads. I didn't measure beforehand. The beads are going to add a lot more detailing to the planter. Then I set it aside to dry for 24 hours, and after it dried down, I took my black chalk paint and I added some white acrylic paint so we get sort of a charcoal color. I also went ahead and added some baking soda to the paint to give this piece a faux ceramic finish. Then I painted the entire piece and I went for 2 generous coats of paint, and you want to ensure the first coat dries up completely before going for the second coat. And this finishes off our planter. I am totally in love with this piece. Thank you for sticking around. I hope you enjoyed today's DIYs. Let me know in the comment section below what kind of DIYs you would like to see on my channel in the future. You can also check out my Instagram at DustyHues. Thank you so much for watching, and I will be seeing you guys next time.